revising advice to other students. Obviously, we focus on psychology, but we have a lot of information on just general advising as well. Our hours are Monday 10 to 5, Tuesday, Thursday 9 to 5, Friday 10 to 1, and we're in Miller 1106. And we have email and all that up there. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started, and our presenters will introduce themselves as they come up.
What's up, everybody? My name is Alex Lee Jones, and to answer your question, yes, I am. I'm presenting on what the GREs, or what these GREs actually are. What GRE means is the Graduate Record Exam. In 2011, August, to be more specific, the GRE Revised General Test, excuse me, I can't speak English today, replaced the GRE General Test. What that means to you all now is just you're not going to take the same test. If you have an older sister or brother or older friend that took the test over a year ago, you're not going to be taking the same test that they took. There have been some minor changes. One of the biggest changes to the test is the actual scoring of the test. The old test was scored on a range of 1600 like the SAT. The new test is a range from 130 to 170 on a section, but they'll get more into scoring a little later. The way the GRE is broken down, just the meat and the potatoes of the GRE, is verbal reasoning. This basically measures your ability to analyze and evaluate written material and synthesize. Basically, it tests if you can read or not. Do you know what words mean? Do you know the context of a sentence? Do you know things like that? Quantitative reasoning. That's a long phrase for math. There's a math section. It's basically geometry and algebra. Those are the two types of math that you need to know to do well on the GRE. The last thing is analytical writing. It's 2 essays scored from 0 to 3 on each essay in half-point increments. This isn't necessarily seeing if you know how to write an essay, but it's more so seeing if you can understand and interpret what an essay means and kind of break it down. I guess, there's an essay section later, right? I'm asking about after this. Well, someone else will tell you more about the essay section later. I'm so sorry. Next, who takes the GRE? All right, prospective graduate students and business school applicants from all around the world. The GRE scores are used for, the GRE is used by different admissions departments at different schools to kind of supplement your application package. So, yeah, it's not necessarily going to get you into school or get you out of school, but it's more used to get a full picture of who you are as a student. Yes. When and where to take the test. There are over 700 test centers in more than 160 countries. That's a lot. The closest test center is in Lynchburg. You can't take this test at like a school. Where you have to take the GRE test is called a Prometric Testing Center. Just to give you guys a little insight, I've taken the GREs, and the GRE it's a beast of a test. It is a very intimidating test. While you take the test, there's a camera in your face. Just to give you guys a little, set the mood for y'all. You sit down in kind of a cubicle thing, right? So you're by yourself. You can put headphones on. It's weird. You're testing in a room full of people, but you feel alone, and I felt alone. So you sit in a cubicle. You take the test on a computer. The GRE is a computer-based test. There, if you maybe aren't comfortable with a computer-based test, or you have some type of disability or anything, you can take a written-based or a paper-based test. But overall, the GRE is a computer-based test. So you take it on a computer, you sit down in a cubicle, there's a camera in your face, you have to sit your ID on the table at all times. There's a woman, or at least I had a woman, that walked in every 15 minutes to check to see if anybody was in there cheating. You got wanded down, it's a big deal. To give you guys a little advice, I know it all sounds like very intimidating, but the best piece of advice that I got for taking the GRE was to just calm down and take the test. Because when you guys get there, if you guys do happen to take the GRE in the future, a big thing is the test is kind of designed to kind of make you feel uncomfortable. So my biggest piece of advice to you all in the future is just to calm down and take the test. Cool, that's it. Subject tests. So these are subject tests. These are also used by different schools to kind of supplement your GRE score. The different subject tests are biochemistry, cell molecular biology, biology, chemistry, computer science, literature and English, mathematics, physics, and psychology. I wouldn't suggest taking these tests unless the school that you're applying to asks specifically for a subject test. Or if you're just one of those cats that like to take another test, then you can take another test. Next slide. Cool. Are there any questions? Anything? Yes.
The psychology subject test, is that as long as the core GRE test?
No, it's not. It's not as long. Anything else? You can ask me anything. My favorite song is Human Nature by Michael Jackson. Anything else? Nothing? Oh, yes, sir.
How'd you do?
How did I do? I did very well. The GRE here at JMU, they want a little more inside information. For the GRE, the graduate school of JMU wants you to score a 70 percentile on the test. I scored 78 percentile, so I did pretty well. Thank you. Yeah, so I did pretty well. Anything else? Awesome. Thank you guys for coming. You guys look beautiful today. Next is Cecilia. She'll be presenting on what's that? She'll be presenting next.
So, disclaimer, I'm nowhere near as charming as Alex. Not even close. But my section is probably the most important because if you don't register, you don't even really have a test to take. So, probably want to listen. Okay, so I've never taken it before. All of the information I've gotten is from the website, okay? But I am well read and I'm prepared to share with you guys, but I'm not going to be able to share my scores with you. So first you got to create an account and you have to have a debit or a credit card in order to sign up and register because it'll cost you exactly $160 unless you live somewhere besides Guam, the Virgin Islands, or the United States of America. And if you have any disabilities or health-like needs accommodations, you'll need to actually register by phone, not online. And also, another thing to think about when you're signing up is the time frame, because it takes 10 to 15 days for your scores to get to you. So if you're trying to get it to like a certain location, like a school or I think like business place, I guess Alice was mentioning, you'll need to take into account the time frame. Okay, so if you are canceling, you have to let them know 3 full days before your test. If you don't let them know 3 full days before your test, then you don't get a full refund. Same thing goes for rescheduling. There's a $50 rescheduling fee, and in order to have it, in order to successfully reschedule and be able to take it at another time within the year of the date that you had originally signed up for, you need to let them know 3 days ahead of schedule. Okay, and you can do that by either telephone or online. Yep. Okay, so and then I have just a few things to talk about how to prepare. There are GRE tests that are offered by Catholic. You can look more into them online at their website, as well as Princeton Review. They can be things that you take in like your home, like with a book with a bunch of questions, practice questions, or they actually host things. I know that they even host them at ISAT occasionally. Like I said, there are books offered by Princeton Review and Kaplan. As far as time frame goes, there's a wide range of suggestions for when you should start, from 4 to 12 weeks. And I think that comes from mostly knowing yourself and how you study and kind of like how you prepare for your own tests. And then, oh yeah, also I wanted to mention, I don't know if anybody of you guys saw, but JMU actually sent out an email this morning and they're offering like prep classes for the GRE. June 4th to June 27th, but it costs $800 per person. And then yeah, final just suggestion, I think it's intuitive, but practice. I mean, it's going to be hard. It's going to, be challenging. Like, to acquaint yourself better with the material, you just have to continually expose yourself to it. So, that's all I have. Question? Cool. All right. paper-based test, but there's not really any real advantage to taking the paper-based test. It's just kind of more of a hassle. Same amount of questions, and a similar time frame for taking the test. And for verbal, there's 2 sections of verbal and math, and then there's like a test section that could be verbal or math, but you don't know which section that will be. Okay, so I personally thought this was the most challenging section. I know that everyone kind of gets really nervous about the math, but keep in mind that that's something that you've already learned, like geometry and algebra and everything. So the hardest part about that is just refreshing, but I thought that this was the most challenging. There's a couple different types of questions. Reading comprehension, where they give you a passage and you get to answer questions about it. Text completion and sentence equivalence. Text completion, they have like multiple blanks in a sentence or a little paragraph, and you have to pick like multiple answers for that. So when I took the practice test, it was on paper. It was a different experience for me to have to select like multiple letter choices. And then sentence equivalence, you get to pick synonyms that fit equally well into a sentence. And really, it's just testing more like critical thinking. That's really what the GRE is all about. You already know how to read. You just want to know that you can critically think about a passage that they give and reason themselves. Okay. So the reading comprehension section, they give you the paragraph. The passage is on the same page as the question, so you don't have to like flip back and forth. These are just some of the things that we test. Like sometimes you'll have to sum up what the passage is saying. Sometimes you have to draw conclusions from what they say. The strengths and weaknesses of the position. They'll ask you to critique the passage. Okay. So 2 to 3 different passages, and then you'll answer multiple questions about each passage. There are a wide variety of topics, kind of random, some of them. And usually they ask questions about the first 1/3 of the passage, and don't get too caught up on the details of what they ask. You can always refer back if they ask about something that is really specific. And you don't want to bring outside knowledge into what you're reading. Just analyze what they've given you and don't make assumptions about things that you've previously learned. Okay, so I don't have an example for that because that would be a little lengthy, but these other sections I have some practice questions you're asking me. Text completion. There's multiple blanks and you have to pick multiple answer choices. And there is no partial credit, unfortunately. So if you miss one of the questions, then the whole answer is wrong. Okay, so here is the practice question I have for you. I'll let you guys read that and give you time to think about it. That's what we can do.
And the second one should say link too, sorry.
Just in case you weren't sure, little explanation. Alright, so text completion strategies will give you a sentence and you have to pick 2 words or phrases that would best fit that blank. So you're looking at synonyms. And you want to make sure you look at keywords like although or however, stuff like that could trip you up. So yeah, just structure. So So single sentence, a lot of this is kind of redundant, and you'll just get a better idea when you see the actual question. So what do you guys think?
Shout out the answer. That was easy.
Right, so original and innovative. So there's two multiple answer choices, and just make sure that you check out those keywords like although, and you want to reread the sentence once you pick your words and see if it makes sense with both of them. Oh, okay, yeah.
So that means there'll be more than one correct answer for some questions.
More than one, yeah. So you would pick both of those. Yeah. So it's not just like either or, it's, you have to pick both for the question to be correct. Sorry. Any other questions?
Does it tell you that there's multiple answers or you need to pick like two?
Yeah.
And once it's specifically that there's two answers, it'll say this could have one or more possible.
Alright. Anything else? Okay.
Hi everybody, I'm Haley Mertens, and I'm going to go over here so I don't neglect this side of the room. Love you guys too. I'm going to talk a little bit about the quantitative reasoning section, which is math, so hopefully you guys will have a little more confidence in your answers so you can answer these unstable questions. Yeah? Okay, good. Alright, so the quantitative section has two portions, and they're both 35 minutes each, and they're going to have approximately 20 questions on them. And we also get an on-screen calculator, which is a new addition to the revised version, which is really cool. Doesn't everyone like that calculator? Yeah. Alright. So the quant section is going to assess math skills, obviously. So you're going to have to have an understanding of elementary math concepts, and also the ability to reason quantitative models and problem-solving methods and stuff like that. So the questions are, some of them are going to be real-life examples of questions, and others are going to be more mathematical concepts like that. Okay, so the four areas that it's looking at are arithmetic, which is pretty much just like integers, numbers, random things you learned in elementary school, fractions. Then you got algebra, geometry, and data analysis. Alrighty. So there's also different kinds of questions with this section. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is quantitative comparison questions. And that will be a question that has two quantities on the top of the question. And then you have to decide whether this side's bigger than this side, whether they're equal, or whether this side's bigger than that side, or whether there's no comparison at all. And you'll see a question like this in a minute. I have one as an example. So those are, I'm kind of like a math nerd, and I thought that math was really fun. So those were kind of fun ones to be able to do. But I don't know that y'all feel the same way. Okay, next we have multiple choice questions that have exactly one answer that's going to be correct. And then also ones that have either one or more answers that are correct. And it'll say that on the top of the question too. It'll say this is a multiple choice question where there's only one possible answer, or this is a multiple choice question, there's one or more possible answers. And then finally there's the numeric entry questions, which everyone took the SAT, right? So y'all remember that from the SAT. They also had all your questions are multiple choice, and then you had the portions where you had to actually write in the numbers. Okay, so here's our first simple question. If f, g, and h are positive integers, f is a factor of g, and g is a factor of h, which of the following statements must be true? Indicate all such statements. So this is one where it might be more than one possible answer. Think really hard, and then shout out your answers. on one side and then 2x minus 1. And so then these are your options, and these are the 4 answers that I'll have for every comparison question. Quantity A is greater, quantity B is greater, the 2 quantities are equal, or the relationship you can't tell anything from the 2 quantities. Does anyone have any ideas? Yes, A is correct. Why did you, before we go, can we go back for a second? So how do you all know that A is greater? Oh shoot, well that's not going to help you. Okay, so cheese and servant, that's good. So a tricky, cool way to figure this one out really easily is that if you ever have one side that has an exponent and the other side doesn't have an exponent, you're going to know that the exponent side is greater. Unless it has a negative exponent, those don't work, we all know that. But yes, so that's right, A is right for this one because that one has an exponent. No matter what number you have in there, it's going to be greater. The rest of the questions don't cheese. Okay, so online there's a lot of really good resources for the quantitative section, and this is one of them, which hopefully is in your packet as well, or it's going to write it down. And then also a lot of the books that you can get from Princeton Review and all the other sources that we have out there, Barnes & Noble and stuff like that, have really good review sections for all of math. I got a Princeton Review one from actually the old test, and then I ended up taking the new test. But it was all the same math and all the same review. So went all the way back to elementary school, and it taught me about integers again. And in the beginning, I was like, oh, this is so easy. I'm going to do so great on the theory. I'm great. And then the harder stuff came along later, and that was the stuff that I really didn't want to learn, but I worked on it really hard. Okay. So I already told you guys that I love math, so I always got really excited when the math sections were coming in. And I remember the same thing happened when I took the SAT too. I would flip through the packet to see where the calculator was on the top, because I was like, okay, just 2 more writing sections, and then I can do my math again. So I looked forward to that because it was kind of like a break from the verbal sections. But maybe some of you like verbal more, and maybe look more forward to that. But it is kind of nice to when you're sitting there for 4.5 hours, and you know that you like one portion better than another. It's nice to look forward to only 5 more minutes, and then I can do math. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. But then, so one thing to look for is just to watch out for the tricky questions. A lot of them you can do without actually having to use your scratch paper at all, and without having to do any math. Like the one with the exponent, you just could know that that's like a trick, and you'll always know that that's going to be greater. Or there's other tricks that they'll teach you in the prep books or in prep courses that just help you to figure out before you even have to think really hard about it. And then finally, just breathe. You'll be fine. When I took it in August, right as soon as it changed. I think I took it August 2nd, which was the second day it was available. And I took it in DC, so they were really strict on security, which was kind of crazy. The girl who went ahead of me, she was wearing spandex, and they were like, okay, please take out your pockets. And she was like, are you serious? There's nothing in my pockets. I'm wearing spandex. But anyway, so I was finishing. There were 5 minutes left to my math section, and I had kicked my shoe off. And I was standing there, and they told you before you go in, you're not allowed to take your shoes off or your sweater or anything like that. And so I was kind of freaking out. I only had 5 minutes. I've been in there for 4 hours and 25 minutes. And the guy, who lost the screen? Anyway, the guy came in who was watching me from the computer screens, and he was like, excuse me, ma'am, you have to put your shoe back on. And I looked at him, I was like, are you serious? I have 5 minutes left. So anyway, the last 5 minutes, I was kind of crazy and put my shoe on, and I was just thinking about how he was making me stop to think about putting my shoe back on. So keep your clothes on, I guess. Like your life. Any questions about quant section?
General question. How the SAT is you put her off pack then you are guessing. Is that the same thing?
I don't think so, because you have to answer them to get points. If you don't answer them, you just get 0 points. So it's not the same as the SAT. Good question, though.
Did you feel like you had enough time, or did you had to rush?
That's a good question too. It's definitely you can skip questions and go back, and they'll bring it back at the end. You only have 35 minutes to do 20 questions, so some of them are kind of harder, and it might take longer if they're a word problem or something like that. And if you do feel like you're taking too much time on one question, I would skip it and then come back. Sometimes it does feel like you're rushing at the end just because you only have 5 minutes left, and luckily they have a countdown on your screen, so you'll know how to pace yourself. And if you take practice tests, that'll help you a lot, because you'll know these kind of questions I'll have to spend more time on, but maybe the quantitative comparison ones aren't going to take me as long. how much time you need to spend. But I definitely suggest you practice to know like what your pace is going to be.
Are the questions worth the same amount?
Yes, I think. I don't really know how they score it, but I'm
I'll do the scores.
okay. Sarah's going to tell you about scores, so I might have lied, but hopefully not.
Some may have already answered this, but do you get breaks between the sections?
Is someone else going to talk about that too? Okay, so what happens is I have to refresh my memory now. It's a long time ago.
You get like a minute break in between each section, and then in between the first 3 sections and the last 3 sections, you get a 10-minute break. And since it's on a computer, the time, like, it's not like, oh, I get 10 minutes. Like, if you're not back before that 10 minutes is up, the test just starts right back again.
And you don't have to take it.
Yeah, you don't have to.
I was like, no break. I'm ready to get out of there. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think you can leave the room if you want to take a 10-minute break, and I walked around for like 2 seconds, and then I went back because I didn't really know what else to do. There's not a whole lot of options in the testing center. You go to the bathroom, that's about it. Good question. Any other ones? Y'all are going to do great on that. All right, thanks guys. Great. Before Linda gets started, I apologize for those of you on this side of the room. That screen does not appear to be working. I have turned it on and off, and it just decided to die. So I apologize. If you have the things in front of you, you have what she's going to say on the slides. If you can't see the screen, I apologize. Technical difficulties, what can you do?
I'll stay over here. Bye. Like Megan said, my name is Linda, and I'm going to be going over the last section of the GREs, which is the analytical writing section. So basically an overview of what this is. It tests your writing skills. So it also tests your critical analyzation skills. So you're presented with an issue or an argument, and just your ability to write a sound and clear written response to those. So there are 2 different tasks, the issue task and the argument task. You're given 30 minutes for each writing task. The issue task will present you with some sort of issue, and you're either going to argue for it or against it. And then the argument task, you're presented with an argument, and instead of arguing your beliefs for it or against it, you're going to argue whether or not it's a clear and sound argument. All right, so the issue task. So like I said, you're going to be presented with an issue, and then you're going to either argue for it or against it. Don't pick like an in-between kind of wishy-washy 50-50 side. They want you to pick one side, stick with it, and then provide sound evidence and examples that support it. So we have an example. All right, so they'll give you a quote and then directions that follow it. So this example, the quote reads, "The perceived greatness of any political leader has more to do with the challenges faced by that leader than with any of his or her inherent skills or abilities." And then the directions that follow ask you to write a response in which you examine your own position on the statement. Explore the extent in which you either agree or disagree with it, and support your reasoning and evidence with evidence and or examples. And be sure to reflect on ways in which the statement might not be true, and how this informs your thinking on the subject. So in this situation, you're either the 2 sides are kind of clear. Do you guys have this in your outline? Yeah, okay. So you can either pick, is the political leader great because of their inherent skills, or are they great because of the challenges they face? So then you're going to want to pull from information you already know, examples of leaders that either express one or the other, and then just use your own opinions and examples to back that up. All right, so then the argument task, a little different. You're going to be presented with an argument that's either complete or not, and then instead of arguing whether or not you agree with it, you're going to argue whether it's just clear and sound, whether the author uses good evidence and examples. So we have another example. So again, similar to the issue task, they're going to give you a quote and then directions that follow it. So this one says, "The City Council of Smithville has instituted changes to police procedures to improve the visibility of the police force. These changes require that the town hire more police officers, budget more funds for police overtime, and direct officers to patrol significantly more often on foot rather than from their patrol cars. These improvements in visibility will significantly lower the crime rates in Smithville and make its citizens feel safer." And then the directions that follow say, "Write a response in which you discuss what questions would need to be answered to decide how likely the stated recommendation is to yield the predicted result. Be sure to explain how the answers to these questions would help to evaluate the recommendation." So again, you're not picking a side, you're just picking points from this argument, whether or not you think they're clear or not. And don't be afraid to say if they do something right, you don't have to just like pull it apart and just say all the things that they do wrong. So last thing, how they score each of these, they go over 4 things: content, organization, language, and mechanics. So content, did you read the directions clearly? Did you follow them and write like a clear response? Organization, did your thoughts flow? Do you kind of have like an introduction, a conclusion, and like are your evidence in like a good sequential order? And then language and mechanics kind of go hand in hand. So language, did you use good vocabulary, and does it kind of flow well? Mechanics, kind of like your grammar and stuff like that. So, any questions?
Alright, hi guys, my name is Sarah, and I will be talking about one of the most important parts after you sign up for the test, is getting your scores and kind of how to understand them. So, getting your scores. As soon as you finish your test on the computer-based test, you will have some scores pop up that are kind of a rough estimate of how you did on the test. They're not going to be your exact scores because there is some equating that they have to do some statistical tests. I don't know exactly how they do it, but they make sure that everybody's test is equally difficult, or the test may start off on different levels of difficulty and then go to the next section based on that. So whichever level of difficulty it starts with, it kind of makes up for that. But after, if you take a computer-based test, you are going to receive your scores, or your scores will be available from 10 to 15 days after that. You can view your scores online, which you're going to need your MyGRE account. So after you sign up, don't lose those because you're going to need them again. You can also wait for your official score report to come out, and that will be when whichever schools you decide to send them to, that's when they're going to receive your scores also. And because that's through the mail, it's going to take about 6 weeks. Both of those, by the way, are free, so those are probably the best options to go with. You can also get your scores by phone, but that does cost $12, and you're going to need your social security number, registration number, or confirmation number, in addition to the test date, your birthday, the institution code and department code where you took the test, and those last 2 can be found online. So probably the best option is to look online or just wait for your scores to come to you. For the paper-based test, you probably won't get your scores any sooner than from the mail if you look online or something like that, because they have to send it out to be graded and things like that. Additional score reports, if you want to send them to other people, you can get up to 8, and they cost $23 if you request those. And if you do it by phone, they'll get those to be processed within 5 days of your phone call. So sending your scores. First of all, you can't send your scores from a specific testing date. When you send your scores, you either send your general GRE scores or your subject GRE scores, or both of them together, but it won't be from a specific testing date. If you take the test more than once, which really isn't recommended if you're looking at grad schools and things like that, because they're going to ask why weren't you prepared the first time and things like that. But if you do take it more than once, then all of your scores get sent. You can send it to either up to 4 graduate institutions or fellowship sponsors with the testing fee. That's all free pretty much after you pay however much for the test. And for those, at the computer-based test, you're going to designate where the scores are going to be sent at the testing center. For the paper-based test, you're going to designate where the scores should be sent during the registration or on your admission ticket. So, and again, additional score reports and sending scores later is going to cost $23. So, if you don't know yet, that's okay, where you want your scores to be sent. You can do it later, but it is going to cost. a little bit. Definitely not as much as taking the test or anything like that, so it's not a huge deal. So your scores. These are valid for 5 years after the testing year, and their testing year is a little funny. It's from July 1st to June 30th. So if you take the test in August, then you have from that August when you took the test to the next year ending in on June 30th is 1 year. The way the general test is scored is, like Alex said earlier, for the verbal section and the quantitative section, 130 to 170. This is different than the old GRE, which was 200 to 800 with 10-point increments. The analytical writing section is the same as it was before. It's still 0 to 6, and that's on half-point increments. The GRE subject tests are, you have the total score of the entire subject test is from 200 to 900, or 990, sorry, and it increases with 10-point increments. But for the individual subscores, which would be like psychology or biochemistry or any other little subtest, those are from 20 to 99, and they increase by 1-point increments. The way they get those scores is you have the raw score, which is the number of questions you got right minus 1/4 of the number you got wrong. Now this is just for the subject test. And then they equate them, which accounts for differences in the versions of the test, because you're not going to have the same test as the person sitting next to you and things like that. So how the test is scored for the regular GRE test. For the computer-based test, for verbal and quantitative reasoning, it's just the number of correct responses you have is your raw score. So you don't get subtracted off of questions you got wrong. So you definitely want to try and answer every question you have if you have enough time. Because, I mean, there's no penalty really for, I mean, I guess it's minus a point, but it's not minus a fourth or anything like that. So, yeah, you have your raw score, and then all questions within that section contribute equally. So it's not like, oh, this is a 5-point question and this is a 2-point question. They're all the same. They're all 1 point. And then your raw score is equated, like I said before. So that is for the differences in difficulty among the different editions, and also differences introduced by the section level adaptation. And that's kind of what I said earlier. You're going to start either low difficulty, medium difficulty, or high difficulty. And based on the number of correct responses you give in that section, it's going to put you to either high, low, or low, medium, high for the next section. And then that last section is going to determine your score. Well, it's a range. So depending on which one you start with, the equating is going to make it even for everyone. Okay, so some of you may take the test and go through the first section of like math. And be like, oh, this is really easy. This is stuff we learned in kindergarten. It's just the integers and things like that. And then you go to the next section because you did really well with that, and it might be algebra, and it might be really difficult for you. But it should, the way it is designed is to make it so that everybody has a difficulty level that's kind of set for them. So what I think is hard may not be what you think is hard. But when we take the test, we're going to think that the test is hard. So the analytical writing section, the way they grade that is they have 2 readers that are trained, and they are going to score it from 0 to 5, just in whole numbers, in a holistic scale, and then they're going to average them together. If the 2 assigned scores differ more than a point, then they're going to bring in a third person. So you're definitely going to have enough people reading your essays and things like that. So it shouldn't be somebody just doing a bad job reading. They're all being read a few times. The emphasis in this section, like Linda said, is on your analytical writing skills and critical thinking skills, but not your grammar and mechanics so much. They still take take that into account, but it's mostly your argument, your critical thinking, and things like that. For the paper-based test, they just go on the number of correct responses for your raw score, and then they grade it. So it's not as difficult for them to grade as the computer-based test, but it still takes 6 weeks to get back and things like that, just because of mailing and all of that. So what do these scores mean? You just get a number. They also give you a percentile ranking, which is really helpful. Alex said he scored in the 78th percentile. So what that means is whatever percentile you score in is the number of people who scored below you, who took that same test. And it's based on all examinees that took the test in the recent 3-year period. So if I scored in the 90th percentile, which I haven't taken the test yet, I probably won't. So 90 people scored below me, and only 10% did better than me on the test. Since the GRE is new, like Haley was saying, or Alex was saying it too, it's really new, so there really isn't a 3-year for our test. But they have taken the old GRE, which is the 200 to 800, and kind of gotten scores that would mean the same thing on this new test, and they're taking those into account also. So it's still how you're doing in relation to people who have taken it 3 years previous to you. Okay, so if you get your scores back and you're just thinking, this is not right, somebody messed up somewhere, I have no idea what I did, and I think I might need help, I want to review before I take it again, there are plenty of things that you can do to help you. They have the question and answer review service, which is $50, but it's for the verbal and the quantitative sections only. So what it'll do is it'll give you questions and the answers, and what you got wrong, and explanations that go along with it. So you can review the questions, what you got wrong, even what you got right, if you want to take it again, so that you know more, everything like that. You can also get a score review for your analytical writing section if you think that somebody may have scored too unfairly, or you think you did better than the score you got. It's $55, and you can do this for up to 6 months after you take the test. They also have the paper-based test hand scoring. So if you think something went wrong and you took the paper-based test, you can have it rescored by hand. But that's, again, only on the verbal and quant sections, and you could also do it on the subject test for the GRE. You can also do this for up to 6 months after you take the test, and that's $30. So any questions on how to score the test? Anything at all? I haven't taken the test, but I've taken a practice test, actually. They give you the scores and the percentile afterwards. And if you take it through Kaplan, they have a little section afterwards. Well, first of all, it was free. Kaplan does free testing sometimes, so look out for that. And I know I got a bulk email about it sometimes, so keep an eye on your bulk emails. And they do have a little session afterwards that kind of is a review of some questions and can help you out in the future.
Do you happen to know if there's any practice GRE scheduled before the end of the semester?
Probably. If you go onto the Kaplan website, I'm not sure what the Kaplan website is, you could probably just Google it. You could look for free tests. And those are just online on your computer. You don't have to go anywhere for those. Just sit down and take the test. And it's really like you would go and take how the GRE is structured. You don't take the writing section, but that's available for up to 2 weeks after, if you want to do it after your kind of scheduled time to take it. So, and
What year was your freshman, college, yeah. When should you
oh,
take it?
if you're going to grad school, you would probably be applying to grad schools in the fall the early fall or winter of your senior year. So you should probably take it in the summer. I would suggest September, so you get your scores, because you're going to have 6 weeks before they're sent to the schools you want them to go to. But Alex just took his a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
so, I mean, really whenever you want.
I would definitely suggest taking it over the summer. Most of my applications weren't due until like March or April, but even taking the test this semester was just ridiculous. Just trying to balance it with classes and everything, and I'm trying to graduate. So it just really, it wasn't a good idea to take the test while you're taking classes and all that stuff. So I would definitely recommend taking it this summer before senior year.
And then, I don't know who was talking about it earlier, but they were saying start studying, maybe it was yeah, 4 to 12 weeks. I've heard previously that if you study more than 3 months before your test, that it really won't help you, because, I mean, there's only so much knowledge you can get, and then by the time you take the test, you're going to completely forget the first things that you were studying. So the farthest out I would start studying is 3 months. So if you do it in the summer, then you can do the end of the spring and then the beginning of the summer. And then definitely don't take it if you don't have to, like, really early. Because, I mean, they are available, your scores, for 5 years after you take the test. But, I mean, it's probably going to be easier when you know where you're going to kind of be looking into grad schools and kind of what's expected of you score-wise. I mean, you always want to score the best you can, but it's easier when you kind of shoot for a number and things like that. It's kind of like that safety. But, anything else? All right.
A few quick announcements for y'all, guys, get up and head out. Alright, so be on the lookout next semester in your bulk emails and things for new symposium starting up in the fall. Also, if you're interested in like getting some prep books, we have some in our office. I brought a few if you want to flip through them before you go. You can check them out for 3 days through the peer advising office, so that's something you can look into. If you don't have the money to buy them yet, you just kind of want to get a feel for how they are, you can check those out and use them. Also, if you're from Dr. E's class and you're here to get credit, you need to sign your name on a sheet that I'll have. And if you did not get an outline and you would like them, please come up and write your name and your email down, and I will email them out to you. So if you came in late and didn't get one and would like one, let me know. Or if you want an extra one,